I don't know what happened.
You're right. One of the air tubes pop?
Oh, this door.
No way. Like the glass exploded?
I thought somebody was shooting at me.
No, dude, I thought I was like, bro, you took a
shots
bullet.
fired.
That's intense.
That's intense. Like I think that I was too excited.
Yeah, the pressure from your excitement caused the window to burst. That's amazing.
Dude, that's wild. And we're back with another episode of Founder Mode.
Yeah, we're digging into how scrappy founders build world-class products with lean AI-powered teams. Kevin, when a founder is staring at an empty GitHub repo, what's the bigger hurdle? Hiring that first engineer or trusting AI to write version 1?
Man, it's a tough call. I mean, when Javier, JJ, and I built Acompli, I mean, we were less than 15 people, and it was, very much about the people. Nothing like the AI we had today. But it's a balance. I mean, today the tools, and I mean, we've talked about V0 and Devin, and we'll probably get into that later today. It's incredible what they can do. And so I think the risk for a startup that hires too fast before they've automated some of these things is could really be a game changer or a game ender.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen some folks make that mistake, and I think ultimately the conversation with JJ will illuminate the right way to think about this and how to hire. So I'm pretty stoked about it. So from zero to a $200 million exit through a pandemic IPO, JJ knows how to build to win. So let's hear how he thinks about bootstrapping tech teams, where to sprinkle AI first, and why smaller might actually be faster.
JJ, welcome to Founder Mode. Great to have you here.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're pretty excited to have you, JJ. You've been building tech for a long time. Tell us how things are different at this moment in terms of how you build teams.
Okay, yeah. I think that it's quite different now because, we used to think that the best team you wanted, certainly always the best people, right? But how we define best people is kind of changing in my mind because Kevin, you remember that when we were at Acompli, we used to sort of design all these tests, right? So when we interview, let's say, engineers, we put them through these loops and see who can crush all the questions. I would not interview people this way anymore because we used to just focus on what people know, what their expertise, where their expertise is, and we hope that we have the best iOS guy, the best Android guy, the best a database guy. This guy's the DevOps guy. Now I think I just want to find the best generalists, right? And that's the best way to build a team because we want people who have good intuition, but more importantly, also they're just more informed. They are always staying on top of everything, learning new things really, really fast, and that's the best way to build a team.
Take us back to day one at Acompli. I mean, we're about to build what, becomes Outlook Mobile and, when Microsoft drops a boatload of cash on us. And how was that different compared to this sort of AI playground we're in now?
Well, I don't think day one we knew that that's the outcome, right? But it is quite amazing that going from just the first line of the code all the way to 500 million users in a few years. But it's day one, we were really all about, okay, how do we put together an all-star team, right? And, in that case, we did find, all the best people, right? There was indeed the best iOS engineer, the best Android guy, and I was supposedly the best email guy. And, because I built a email server and a email client before that, right? And then I didn't know a lot of tricks about how do you squeeze out every ounce of performance from these standard email protocols? Because, otherwise, how can your email app be better than other people's email app? Right? What differentiates us? I remember that we had to, it's even just on the technical side alone, right? It's you have to overcome a lot of different challenges. Even though people think that, okay, mobile, like the iPhone came out, I think 2007, right? And we were building the mobile email app in 2013. So that's like, a few years in between, like 6 years is a long time. But still, at that time, building the most complex app on iOS Android was hard. It, the building blocks, what we take for granted today didn't exist, right? So I remember things like, a lot of users have 100,000 emails in their inbox. And I mean, Kevin always has zero because he's a inbox zero guy, but the rest of us, we always have all the emails in the inbox read. And so how do you allow people to kind of infinitely scroll as fast as they want, but still be able to load everything really fast, right? Over high latent network and, sort of a small screen, and also, just a low memory, as well as battery life, right? All these combinations, how do you overcome these type of things?
So JJ, we were talking about, the headwinds back in 2013, building an email app against all of the kind of tech that was required to do best in class mobile development on iOS back then. So let's fast forward and let's talk about AI and your time at Instacart and how you were able to leverage AI, even in the earlier days of people using AI, to really kind of stand out and separate what Instacart was doing from the competition.
To be honest, we didn't really think that much about competitions, because it's always about how to better serve customers, right? So this is the same, when we were going through the, Kevin, you remember, when we were going through the crazy growth period during the pandemic, right? Especially the early stage of pandemic lockdown. That was crazy. And, our mind was always how do we ship faster, and how do we serve customers, right? So, after the pandemic, when things such as GitHub Copilot became a thing, that was one of the decisions we made very early on, right? Because, it's always about running faster. So something like the AI tooling, coding tooling, was the first glimpse, right? Oh, this will actually help the team run faster. So we gave access to everyone immediately. Certainly, not everyone used it, because at the time people were still thinking that, okay, I'm a better coder than this, right? So, but a lot of people use it. And then later on, quickly, also gave everyone access to Cursor. And, these numbers are now a few years old, so I feel comfortable quoting them. But, I think that in first 3 months after people start to adopt these tools, where we see across the team, the number of lines generated by AI was, very quickly 20%. And by now, and then that is, considering at that time the tools were very limited, not that great. So today, we're looking at really more than half of the code being generated, right?
I mean, with AI doing all the heavy lifting, do we even need rockstar engineers anymore on day one? Or can you just hire an average dev and let the machines do all the magic?
I don't know. It really depends on how you define what does average dev mean, right? Because in the end, it's about I have to say that how do I put this? The skill set required is slightly different, right? Because it's sort of what's a good analogy? It's like if you work in a factory where everything's manually done, then you have to find the people who can carry a lot of load, right? Can move things around. But if it's automated factory and there's a lot of robots deployed, then you probably want to find people who can keep track of fast-moving events in the factory floor, right? Not anyone who can lift a lot of weight. So same thing with using AI tools. You just want people who have a deep understanding of the methodology of building software, but not necessarily the people who can type the fastest or remember all the details of the syntax of the programming language or the tricks of the programming language, those things start to get pushed to the background, right? So the skill set is changing, but you still need, at the end of the day, the best engineers. Just how you define them is different now.
I know there's a little fight happening right now between the two of you about a certain AI coding tool, and I'm really hopeful that we're going to get into that.
Yeah, so that's a good one. I think that everyone can learn this, right? And the important thing is to learn, to develop the new intuition, like how do you harness these things, and different people come to the intuition differently, right? So some people say, oh, I have this intuition because I trained my own LLM, right? So that's great. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be like, you just spend a long time to build your hobby companion bot, and you became sort of like the best GPT whisperer, right? So it doesn't matter how you got there. It's just that like you need these skills, and training the existing team totally is doable, because it doesn't really take, it's not rocket science. And you can learn these things relatively fast.
Yeah, Jason alluded to it, but I think I've been loving Devin lately. And JJ saw like the wrath of my Devin use sort of spread across and sort of infect some of the code bases that we've been working on together. And I think you're right. Like, I think like it's funny because I think I'll be honest, I got overextended in some senses, is that Devin works great for things I understand well. So I've always been like front end-ish, sort of like building websites and doing a lot of the sort of secondary coding stuff. But having it go in and touch sort of code where, sort of full stack or deeper backend engineers, I think has struggled, but it's interesting, right? And so I think, beyond the obvious, like what else, JJ, have you seen like where, building tech's kind of fundamentally changed in this AI era?
Devin or Cursor or all these coding tools, right? You can see that there are very quickly emerging that all these different kind of mindsets, right? So if you think about things like Cursor and Windsurf, which is like another version of this Cursor, or our friend's company Augment, right? And all these are sort of like a Copilot style in your IDE, and kind of like a helper tools, right? So that the main driver is still the engineer, and they use these tools. But the emerging tools such as Devin and now OpenAI Codex, I think they released it only a few days ago, right? That start to shift to a slightly different paradigm. So that paradigm is like you treat AI not as your sort of tool that who does the pair programming with you. You treat them as another dev on the team, right? And then they push PR, you review them, and so on. So I think that we are in this weird moment when AI is like really, really useful, extremely useful, almost too useful to be dangerous, right? But at the same time, not very reliable. So it cannot really do things fully autonomously. So the paradigm between sort of like a Copilot paradigm and the independent another dev on the team paradigm, we are quickly moving toward that, but not there yet. This is why Devin may not work the best today yet for a lot of tasks, but I'm sure that in a period of time, everyone will be on the other side.
Yeah, you mentioned Augment. So Scott Dietzon's our friend, and he's the CEO of Augment. And one of the quotes I just saw him post was that, a few months ago, 100% of their LLM calls were going from chat, meaning, interactive developer coaching it. Now they're seeing 3% from chat and 97% from Agentic. So basically their agent model, which is sort of similar to Devin. And so the idea that I think a lot of developers are trying this. I think it also, sort of feeds the LLMs and the companies that are charging on a per use basis, because clearly like having lots of agentic calls over and over and over. What's the dumbest mistakes? I mean, switching gears a little bit, that you've seen like founders make, when they try to like jam AI into their startup?
I wouldn't say dumb mistakes, but everyone makes mistakes. But I think that, first of all,
it's you using Devin for everything, Kevin. I'll answer it for you. That's the dumbest mistake. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, Devin is Kevin's brother.
Devin and Kevin.
That's right. Yeah, but I think that the first thing is for startup founder. First of all, it's all about like what problem are you trying to solve, right? AI is just a tool at the end of the day, and when people talk to me about their business ideas, and very often I get excited if it is not AI. So it's all about what problem to focus on, right? But the second piece is small team, especially if it's not that the one AI mistake you make. It's like if you're not using AI for everything, that's a mistake, because that's leveraging all the tools, no matter how imperfect they are, there's always a best of breed, and if you pay enough attention, you can use it for everything, right? From like coding to writing your pitch deck to running the team, right? Just about everything. So whoever's the most inventive and can leverage the tool the best will run fast and will win.
Yeah, about 90% of my conversations with Kevin are geeking out about the different ways that the two of us are using AI in every aspect of our life. So you are preaching to the converted. I think, one of the things I noticed is going on with you right now is you've talked about kind of taking some time for learning and discovery, which is a little corporate speaky. So like, tell us, what are you actually working on? What are you digging into right now? And how is it changing how you view the world? I love the contrarian take, by the way, of like, oh, if it's not AI, I'm really interested. But like, realistically, what does it mean? What does learning and discovery mode mean for you right now? What are you doing?
First of all, back to coding, because in my career I took break from coding twice, right? The first time I took a 5-year break, and then Kevin and I started, and our third co-founder, Javier Sotero, the three of us, we started Acompli. And day one, I was like, well, I need to code again. I haven't coded for 5 years. And that was really, really hard to get the muscle memory back, to be able to type again, right? Because it felt like almost like an idiot, right? And was very scary. But the second time is like, last year I started to get back into it. And this time I haven't coded for like, not exaggerating, almost 10 years, right? And this time is so much easier. It's not because I, don't have the muscle memory anymore, right? It's not because I still have the muscle memory. It is gone. But the funny thing is the muscle memory is the part that AI can actually replace the best. And so we got into that, and then I think that taking some time off from my regular work and focusing on like learning these things, right, is you can certainly say that we can all have intuition about like how this thing is evolving and how fast things are changing. Like, oh, let's have that, right? But when you actually day in and day out writing code using these tools and see how these tools evolve, you just have better intuition, I really enjoy that part.
It's funny. I randomly was reviewing a PR before we got onto this, and I happened to go onto my GitHub profile, and I have more green boxes on my GitHub profile in the last month than in the last 10 years. And it's crazy. Like, partly it's all Devin, let's be honest. And then, but it is, to your point, like, it's not only fun, but it's way easy again in terms of like, just doing things and seeing it. And it reminds me back to when I got out of college, and it was like, I was editing websites or PHP, and it's like, you check something in, you save it, you refresh the browser, and it works.
I think that it's not one thing, but it's mainly the mindset, right? It's, there are people who already have found their product market fit. They're working on something. In that sense, then it's execution, right? It is all about how to leverage, the best team with the best tools to run as fast as possible. But for founders who are still exploring, and we do, Kevin, you and I talk to a lot of people in that stage as well, right? I find that, we used to feel that there's a lot of limitation. Everything takes a lot of time, a lot of effort to build anything. And in order to figure out, okay, where's the product market fit? If I have a good idea, I think I have a good idea, right? To even get to stage that I have a demo to show customers and to understand that is that going to be something valuable, right? Takes a lot of effort and therefore capital. But now it becomes like, you can go from idea to something that's working and put in front of customers in almost no time and very low effort, right? So it kind of reminds me of this phrase, like we say, what's the word? Fast fashion, right? It's like quick fashion, fast fashion. And where does that come from? It's like social media gives you the trend. Then you have globalized labor. You have supply chain optimization. All these things culminating to this moment. You can finally have fast fashion, right? So it feels like AI is now giving us fast software. So you can really explore so many different ideas in very short period of time if you have them, and you can realize all of them, right? And then just put it in front of people. And you can almost like be all things to all people very easily, right? And then, we were talking about things like Devin, things like Codex, right? Eventually, when these things become really mature, then, what is the role of a engineer or a product person or the entrepreneur, right? Eventually it becomes like, it's almost like the artist who is, creating art, but just giving instructions, right, to the canvas. And then, it's like, that may be a little bit abstract. So it's more like, you're a movie director, right, on the set. You're basically telling the actors what to do and how to actually, act better or, bring more emotion into it, right? So we will soon get into that world. It's like today, it still feels a little bit like a fantasy, but we'll get there, and everyone needs to become a movie director.
All right, final question. What 2025 AI trend is total BS, and how should founders kind of cut through the hype?
There's certainly a lot of hype, right? Because we kind of live in this social media echo chamber. So everything gets just amplified everywhere. So probably the biggest buzzword right now is agent. Everyone just keeps talking about agent, even though I don't even know if they all mean the same thing. But everyone's like, oh, multi-agent, agentic. By the way, not sure if you guys saw that. Was it yesterday or the day before Microsoft announced this thing called the Agentic Web? Yeah. I actually like the word because, you do need a word for that kind of word, or like when everything is MCP, MPC, and so on. I think that even though there's a lot of this kind of hype, right, we tend to, just like everything, we tend to overhype of something in the short term, because in the short term, all these things don't really work well yet, right? You have to put in a lot of work to still make them reliable. But at the same time, I think that all of us make this mistake, right, including ourselves, which is to underestimate the hype today, because these things will become really magical, will really change our lives, and we're just not very good at non-linear thinking, right? So I'm pretty sure that in 3 to 5 years, the way we build software, the way we build tech will be very different.
All right, where can folks find you and follow your journey on all this stuff, JJ?
On this podcast.
Love it.
That's good. That's the right answer. Kevin actually said that he's referred to you as Yoda a few times, so you didn't disappoint in that regard. Learn interesting things about AI. We will. So any links that you can share? What's the best place for folks to connect with you and get in touch?
I am on LinkedIn. I have a X account, but I'm more a reader on X than a publisher. Kevin is different.
Thanks, JJ. I appreciate the honesty and the depth.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Hey, that was a masterclass. JJ's rule of thumb, fast software, it's a blueprint for early stage founders.
Yeah, I love the analogy that like the global supply chain and labor force is to fashion what AI is to software. It's just, from fast fashion to fast software. It's awesome. Like it really helps crystallize for me how to think about it. Kevin, what were the key things to take away from this one if you're a founder listening?
Yeah, a bunch of things. I think the first one was just this specialist roles now to like really looking for people that are adaptable generalists, just in terms of fitting out an early AI team. And then we talked a bunch about, our sort of challenges at Acompli and, how that sort of shaped a large scale mobile app that, became Outlook. And then AI coding tools. I mean, we jumped into my fan favorite Devin, Copilot, Cursor, and now these are quite frankly generating more code than not, right? Over 50% of the code that we're building today is from these, and we're seeing that across the industry. And just this notion of agentic AI as a full teammate versus like, hey, it's like you're co-piloting, right? And it's kind of funny, pilot analogy there of like, who's flying the plane on this one? Is the code flying, or is is it on autopilot, or is it on co-pilot mode? And then, of course, fast software, that whole mindset of like, how do you exploit AI everywhere? And then you really got to like be careful and sift through the agent hype and make sure that you apply it, sort of when it's ready.
Yeah, if this sparks some ideas, fire it off to a founder who is hustling with a tiny crew.
Yeah, smash subscribe, drop a quick review, and help more builders find the show.
Links to JJ's LinkedIn and X will be, and every tool that we mentioned will be in the show notes and the description. And next time we're jumping from building lean teams to thinking about how commerce and direct to consumer has changed across the logistics side of the business and D2C businesses.
Yeah, we'll break down guerrilla growth tactics and kind of why they still matter in 2025. Remember, when you're short on headcount, the boldest move is to let AI take the night shift so your team can build smarter.